I have to change mics so I can stay with this mic. Stay with this one? Yeah. It is so wonderful to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. No. And thank you for what you're about to share with us. I'm a product of HISD. I was born on Lockwood Drive in Fifth Ward and raised in Pleasantville and graduated from Fur High School in HISD. When I came back from the military, I taught at Fur and Wheatley. So I mean, I've been in HISD, worked in HISD, and I've seen the best of HISD, and I've seen the slumber moments, and now I'm starting to see the best again.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things I want to do is I want to introduce our next guest. She is and I heard something about you too. I heard something about Mo City, so. And so I want to introduce you. And sometimes the most powerful people don't look like they. Does she look nice and humble? And now how does
Thank you.
How does she control 274 schools, 176,000 students?
I don't look like what I've been through.
God. Hey, look here. We in church, so what? God is able.
Absolutely.
It's the God in you.
Yes, sir.
I was listening to that earlier. It's the God in me. Well, look, Kasey Bailey brings over 20 years of experience to the education space. She is the chief of schools for HISD. So all of the improvements, give it up. You have to give that up. Now, she didn't just get hired as chief of schools. One day walk in chief of schools. No, she was a top teacher in the school, in the education space, in the classroom. She was a top #1 teacher. She was the assistant principal, principal supervisor, leadership developer, dedicated to hard-earned results-driven educational systems, and joined HISD over a decade ago before the new reforms. So she saw it before the new reforms, and went through the new reforms and have some great information to share with us now about those reforms, the outcomes of those reforms. And I'm not going to steal her thunder. And she came in as associate principal and quickly, established herself and distinguished herself as being a transformative principal, turning around low-performing schools, both at the primary school level and secondary school level, low-performing schools becoming highly successful schools here in the city of Houston, which Houston is the 4th largest city in the United States of America. HISD is the largest school district in the state of Texas. And Houston is the energy capital of the world. So she's producing talent now for our energy industry, which is a controlling factor in the world market. And she's from this area. That is huge. Now, one of the things I'd like for you to do is so that the public that's here, that's attending here, and also this is being live streamed across the state of Texas. So everybody across the state of Texas is seeing this, and then it'll go out across the United States of America. And my phone, I know that I had turned that thing. I had turned it on silent, but the devil is a lie. And he ain't gonna get in our business today. We are gonna have a great time and a great conversation. And so with that being said, I would like just take a moment, Ms. Bailey, and tell not just the folks who are here, but the folks who are around the state of Texas who are watching this, who you are. Because you don't look like you just turned around 274 schools. So I'm going to give you a moment to do that.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. It is definitely an honor. What an introduction. Sometimes when you're in the work, you don't realize the magnitude of the impact and the charge.
Don't look like what you've been through.
Right, exactly. The charge you have to be a part of saving and changing lives, and that's through education for our children. So I am born and raised here in Houston. I've lived several places, grew up in a single household with a very hardworking mom that was chasing stability for her kids. And so chasing that stability, it did cause her to move a lot. And so being able to connect with many of our children with high mobility rates, growing up in a low-income home, I've experienced that firsthand. But I knew really quickly that my education was going to be my escape from poverty. And so that fueled my passion and my drive to work hard. And I got my work ethic from my mom. Seeing my mom work extremely hard and make the sacrifices that she made to put food on the table and keep a roof over her kids' heads. You don't recognize it as a child, but when you grow up and you have your own children and you see what it takes to provide, she is a brilliant lady in her own right.
You know what my dad used to say, just keep on living.
Just keep on living. Keep saying good morning.
Look here. You don't understand now, but just keep on living. One day you'll understand.
Absolutely. And so I didn't go into education after high school and college. I actually majored in communications, but I grew up playing school. Line all my teddy bears up, and all my family called me bossy. I just thought I was a leader. So
turned out to be true.
Absolutely. And so I majored in communications, but right after graduation, I went and received my alternative certification certificate to be able to teach. And so I started teaching in 2004 in Alief ISD and taught there for a few years, and then went to Fort Bend. I actually am a product of Fort Bend ISD. That's where Mo City came from. Graduate of Elkins High School. However, throughout all of that movement that I experienced as a child, I did attend Welch Middle School, which is one of our middle schools in HISD, at one point in my educational career. And so got my alternative certification, started teaching in 2004, and I taught from 2004 to 2010. And then that was my first opportunity to become an assistant principal. I knew, even as a teacher, that I wanted to lead systems to make sure that every child had the right opportunity and they were afforded options. And I didn't want education to be a reason they didn't have those options. And so got my master's in educational leadership, became an assistant principal in 2010, and then I became a principal. Well, I came to HISD in 2013 as an associate principal at Evan E. Worthen High School. And then within not even a year, I got the opportunity to be a principal. And I was a principal at Forrester, Lawson. It was Dowling back in the day, shifted to Lawson Middle School and Madison High School. And the principalship by far was my favorite role. I loved
being a principal.
I loved being a principal. I did. It's nothing like it. There's times where you love something. However, I believe in destiny. And there's times you're going to get tapped and told it's time to impact greater. It's time to really stretch what you can do and make sure other people have the mentors and the coaches to be able to do that. But I definitely love and miss being a principal. And so after principalship, I became a school support officer, and that's our principal supervisor that directly coaches and supports the principal. I've done that. I've done leadership development. Train the trainers. Yes, train the trainers. I've done that. And then the intervention came. And it was a very scary time.
Let's talk.
It was uncertain.
Let's talk a little bit about the intervention. I was in HISD as a student back in the late 60s through 70s. And Phyllis Wheatley at the time was a premier school. in terms of academic performance, producing folks like the late Barbara Jordan, the late Mickey Leland, and many other icons came out of that school. And when I came back from the military, that was my first job. And I was like, oh, wow, man, I'm going to be teaching at Wheatley. And I went in there, man, it looked like, school days, Cooley High or something. I said, what's going on here, man, at Wheatley, And so I could see the need for change. I could see the need because I remember when it was in its heyday. And I could see the need for change. And finally the state comes along and they make this change, and you were just referring to the transition. And sometimes, people get comfortable. You can get comfortable with misery. If you're miserable long enough, you'll get comfortable with it. And then somebody comes and say, man, I'm going to take you out of misery. No, man, leave me alone. I'm okay. I've adjusted to my misery. And then you're getting pushed back and you come along and say, well, look, I'm trying to take you out of the misery piece, man. No, I'm fine. And so with this transition, you were there before the transition. And then when the transition came, and you just mentioned, say it was a scary time. And now you've pushed all the way through the transition. Let's talk about going into that scary time, what people were feeling, and then we're gonna progress this interview forward to where we are now.
Absolutely. So when I say scary, it's that discomfort of uncertainty. It's that discomfort of not sure of the desire. What do you really want to come here and do? And what does that mean
Trust.
for us? That's
Trust.
right. And so when there's not trust yet built,
Right.
then it's understandable how people can respond, right? Human nature. And so for me during that time, it was the uncertainty. And what I will say is, before the intervention, we did have schools that were thriving. We did have children that were learning. But all means all. And all students were not thriving. All schools,
pockets of inefficiency.
correct, were not thriving. And so what I know to be true now is that we are really intentional around meaning that all means all, and holding ourselves accountable as a system to meet the needs of every child. I know that to be true.
And let me just say this for our audience so they understand. Article 7 of the Texas Constitution mandates the Texas legislature to provide a free and efficient education for all students. That's on what you're speaking about now, all. And you can't, if you're having pockets of inefficiency, then what's happening is we're not meeting the mandate of the Texas Constitution. And therefore, the legislature had to act, because when you're outside of that purview, then you're violating the Constitution. And so when the legislature had to act, I know a lot of times there were folks who thought that the independent school district pretty much ran itself and it was above the legislature. And that's why civics is so important, because most folks don't know that if the Texas legislature creates districts, combines districts, and dissolves districts based on that free and efficient education. And so when this transition took place, there was a lot of controversy. You and I, we were all here. People saw it on the news. But for a person who was within the system at the time and recognizing the need of those students, something inside of you, let's talk about that for a moment. Something inside of you shifted and said, let me move and navigate my way to a place where I can take care of my children. See, Dr. Page told me that years ago. I was his intern, Dr. Roderick Page, former U.S. Secretary Rod Page. I said, Doc, seems like we ought to be able to change these situations. And I said, what is the problem? I mean, we have brilliant people. He said, I'm going to give it to you in one word. He said, leadership. And then he said, you have to navigate your way into a position of leadership so you can really make a difference. Something inside of you
That's good.
hit.
Absolutely. So by nature, I'm not afraid of change. I am going to take change by the horn, and I'm going to show it who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my mindset. That was my mindset when leadership came in and diagnosed where we were and prescribed their medicine. Mm-hmm. My mindset was, well, let me show you who I am. And let me show you what we can do.
Amen.
And so I just moved with that sense of identity that we are much better than what we are portrayed to be right now. And what we will do is we will thrive throughout this intervention. We will climb out of this state of achievement, and we will do better for our kids. And so I didn't allow the frustration or the turmoil that was created, I did not allow that to be my guiding light. Mm-hmm. I didn't focus on that. And every person I was able to engage with in my current role, that was my mindset. Rise up and show what we can be.
Rise up. Mm-hmm. And that is a message into itself for, and this is Juneteenth, for folks who are watching all across the state of Texas. There's nearly 5 million African Americans in the state of Texas. The state of Texas, when compared to every other state in the United States, has the largest population of African Americans. There are some young African American girls who will be watching this, and they'll hear and feel your spirit of rise up. In a moment of turmoil, in a moment of controversy, politics swirling all around this issue, here you come in the midst of the storm, rising up. That is a hallelujah moment. Y'all need to give that a round of applause. And for the folks who don't know what NES is, could you tell us a little bit about NES?
So the new education system is an instructional model that's really just designed to meet the needs of students who are below grade level. And so it is how you are delivering high quality instruction across the board throughout any instructional block. And so it literally is created and designed to support all kids. There's elements of the delivery of that model that supports kids that are on grade level, and they don't need that additional support. They can capture and they can obtain and transfer their learning the very first time you teach it. It's also designed for our kiddos that just need a little more support, a little extra push, close a couple of their gaps or misconceptions that they may have, and then push them along. And then it's also designed for our kiddos that need additional supports if there are disabilities in place and they need specialized support in order to connect with that on-grade level content. It's designed to support them as well. So it's only an instructional model on how to deliver quality instruction for kids.
But everybody got so scared. NES, oh my God, NES. And the way that you're explaining it is, did you guys hear how she explained that? She said, it's only another instructional model. That's it. It's an instructional model. But see, if you are a sound professional in your profession, you don't get, those kinds of things don't scare you. You say, look, this is just another instructional model.
And in education, there's been a ton of research on how to best teach kids. That's not going to stop. So again, it goes back to me not being afraid of change. Well, if it works, I'm okay with adopting this and let's move forward. Someone will come in another day and adopt something else, and if it works, okay, well, that's where we are at this time, as long as it's working. I won't get in back and forth of choosing one way and one model. I don't believe that there's ever just one way. I believe that there are effective ways and there are ineffective ways. And I'll never prescribe to ineffective. But I can ascribe to effective and align to leadership that's in place at that time. And as long as it's effective and I can see at the ground level that it is supporting kids, well, let's go.
And the ultimate goal is always to make sure that we deal with those pockets of inefficiency. Thank you. That we deal with those pockets of inefficiency so that we close those gaps. So we close those gaps, increase academic performance, and decrease failure. And I think you have some information that you want to share
Yes.
with our audience today. The reason why we're here, because folks want to know, well, what's the outcome?
Absolutely.
You know?
So before the intervention, when you look at this map, you can see that it is color-coded by A through F accountability rating. And red are our D and F campuses. And the D and F are slightly variation in color, but right now they may all look red.
And this is
on
before
screen.
the intervention.
This is
All the red
2023.
dots. Okay.
2023, the number of D and F campuses that we have. And you can see throughout the city of Houston where our D and F campuses, where they lie. That's not okay. This is the comfort that you described. We got comfortable with that.
Right.
It's not
we
to
were
say.
okay. I mean, there
right.
were folks.
It was people trying to still work towards that. We had our various intervention programs that were in place. However, we had yet to overcome what this map is communicating.
And I think this illustration basically gives us a picture, a fairly clear picture of where we were prior to the intervention and how individuals in our community fought so hard to stay there. And now that's incredible. But again, human nature, human behavior can get comfortable with some of the most harsh situations because why? We adapt. And what we had done here, I'm a native Houstonian, so I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about me. What we had done was adapted to that situation and really began to accept it.
So after the first 2 years, the next slide, I'm going to show you an updated map. It's not even updated with our current data yet, but just after the first 2 years, this is where we are. You can't say the intervention is not working. You can't say that.
In order to say it, you would have to be just flat out in denial. You'd have to be, you'd be in what we call blind denial. You'd have to be blind and in denial to not acknowledge and see the changes there. You know, because if you notice, the red dots got real small.
Absolutely. And that's not to say that we've worked out every issue that needs addressing. That's not to say that we've got here perfectly. That's not to say that. What that is saying is that we have more kids walking into schools, reading on grade level, able to do math on grade level. We have more confidence built, and I'll show a data point, for parents on the quality of instruction and education that their child is receiving when they go to school each day. That's what that map is saying to me.
And let me share with you because it's Juneteenth, you know, let me share with you what it's saying to me, Ms. Bailey, that you all at HISD have taken a courageous and bold move to close the school-to-prison pipeline. Because we had more people in our communities, in the black communities, not reading on grade level by the third grade. And by the third grade, the prison industry had began to count beds, how many beds they were going to have in the future. Because if you don't have it by the third grade, you're not going to care. Most of the times, now there are anomalies, But most of the times, you're not going to catch up. And if you don't catch up, you're going to drop out of education and into criminal justice. So what you're doing, and I'm glad we're in the church, what you're doing God's work.
It's ministry for me.
There you go. I could tell.
It's ministry for me.
Let me tell you something. You just mentioned that, but I already could tell your spirit. You were not going to be denied, and you have not been denied. But let's finish this data because I'll start shouting in a minute.
And so just to give you some high-level nuggets on just some accomplishments that we have experienced over the last few years in this intervention, again, really leaning in and focusing on closing achievement gaps for kids, increasing the number of campuses, like I said earlier, that parents can be confident in sending their children to. This is the work that's evolving and that's continuing to evolve. When you look at closing those gaps, looking at our various student groups, you see growth in all of our populations. That's leveling the playing field for all kids. When I say all means all, we should see plus everywhere. And if we don't, then all doesn't mean all.
And it's not segregated out by zip codes.
Correct. That is no longer the Houston story.
There you go.
And it will never again become the Houston story.
Give that a round of applause. Huh? Because if y'all feeling it like I'm feeling it, I'm about to say free at last. I'm about to say free at last. Yes. I mean, I'm a native Houstonian. I've seen the greatness of our inner city schools, and I've seen the fall. And thank God it's on its way back. And let me tell you something. Sometimes it's not the person that you see out there, because see, what our community has done is say, okay, we're going to target that guy right out there, and we're going to make him the target of all of our reject and all of our pushback. But it's the silent little person back there moving everything, making it happen. And so I want to thank you for coming out and revealing yourself to not just the city of Houston, but the state of Texas, because we're all watching.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things, again, when I see these gaps continue to close for our kids, I'm thinking about when I walk in every classroom and I see black and brown children confident to talk about what they're learning. That's the why.
And I think right now the black and brown population make up the majority of the HISD population.
It does. And let me be clear, all of our children of Houston ISD are growing. All of our children.
Doesn't matter race, creed, or color.
Correct. We just know that our black and brown children, our children that are learning second languages, we know that we have to get them to that same starting line that our white children are at in this race towards education and better outcomes after school. We know we have to close that gap. And that's why we're pushing this work. That's why we're transforming outcomes for kids so that as we continue to see our student groups thrive, what we're doing is we're inching up closer to that starting line. It makes me think about, I'm sure we've seen that, like a meme or a visual where you have this tall fence and you've got the giraffe standing there and the giraffe can see very clearly what's ahead. But then oftentimes it depends on which version you have. It might be a rabbit or a turtle or a smaller animal, right? Not as tall, standing at that same fence. But that's not an equitable setup. And so the smaller animal needs that ladder in order to get to the same opportunity that giraffe has. That's the visual I can say I see in us really focusing on this intervention, closing the achievement gap between our white students and our black and brown students and our emergent bilingual students, our students with disabilities. We're closing that gap so every child in Houston can stand at that fence, because equal doesn't mean equality, equity. Standing at that fence to be able to see far, see their future, and be able to graduate ready to earn a livable wage.
And that's the key.
Absolutely.
That's the key. And I looked at your bio, and I think you left something out. I know you went in Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. You've been a
My
soldier.
dad's a retired Marine.
I knew it. Look here. I could tell that old Sarge in you. I could tell. I know old Sarge when I see him.
Well, I told you I was bossy as a kid.
Well, look, these are. You have any more slides? Because
Yes, absolutely. Just continue to show the narrative. When you look at our high school scores, you can see how we are gaining on the state and closing the gap. Houston has never been at the level of the state when we talk about meets or exceeds. So we're not projecting data that are for our kids that are approaching. While we are proud that our kids who may have never passed a STAR exam, they earn approaches. They're getting close to being on grade level. But getting close to being on grade level doesn't put you in the right position to be post-secondary ready or ready to earn a livable wage after high school. And so we report out on meets, and that means you are meeting the standard on grade level. And so you can see here in the far right how over the last 3 years of the transformation, we are closing in on the state, and in some tests beating the state or equivalent to the state, which is a much different story over the last few years. And so you can see here our EOC, high level. Here's what we're definitely proud of when we look specifically at our EOC scores. When you look at over time, those various populations, I'm sorry, did I miss one? Sorry. My vantage point I can't see as well. But when you look at over time, again, the green, we're rising. One of the things we named, a school district of our size, over 165,000 kids, if you grow in your meets or exceeds in any test 2 points, that is considered very good. And that's what the state has shown to do over time. We are exceeding that. And so growing 4 to 6 to 9, in some cases, in some tests, over 10 points over this intervention is worth celebrating our children. That's worth celebrating our children.
And one of the things that, folks that
yes,
don't.
Please.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, there you
yes,
go.
yes.
See, the deal is, you got to understand data, see? And I think that what we're doing now is we're beginning to introduce real data to our folks so they can really understand, the power of data and outcomes. It's one thing to say, oh, yeah, I'm in the fight. I'm fighting for you. We hear that a lot. I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting for you. Are you winning?
That's
this
good.
data demonstrates, these outcomes demonstrate winning. Because when you can go from here to here, that's winning. And here, that's winning. And so we need to celebrate those wins. This is a moment of celebration for Juneteenth. Thank you so much for this information.
And we're far from done. We're far from done. And honestly, as a city, the intervention should not be our ceiling. That should not be our ceiling. We should be thinking beyond. How do we continue to close gaps for our kids? One of the things is, how are we paying attention to how families are feeling about their schools? How are we paying attention to how families are feeling both about their schools, right? About their children's education. So our sentiment survey is showing increase, as you can see. Our families are saying that they are growing more confident in the school that their student is going to. That is a part of the why. We have to increase parents' opinion about us as a school and a school district. We have to build that trust and make sure they feel confident.
And get parents more involved, period. Again, we have to look at the time that we're in, and I call it back to the future. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have to look back at some of the things that we did in the past and bring it forward to the future and to the present and deal with it in the future, simply because, back in the day, both of my parents worked. Both of my parents worked 2 jobs each, and they wasn't home that much. And then their times at home was staggered. But one thing they always said, boy, you better get your homework. And then they might come in late. Let me look at your homework. I know they were tired, but I had to show my homework. And I could not show up without a report card. I don't know how folk don't show up at home without a report card.
Absolutely not.
I could not show up without a report card. So, and folks say, well, yeah, people are busy these days. No, I told them both of them had that's 4 jobs between 2 people. And they checked my report card and they looked at my homework. I don't know how much they really knew about it, but they looked at it, and that was enough to make me get it.
You knew they paid attention.
Exactly. So they were engaged. And what you're doing at HISD right now is re-engaging. You're not engaging, you're re-engaging the family, re-engaging the parents. And we have to remember that we have not always lived in a parental disengagement space, but what you're doing now is re-stimulating that and getting, and that changes the game, really. Because when my teachers could get me to do anything, but if they said something about my mama or my daddy, look here, that changed the game. What y'all need me to do?
Oh, absolutely.
What you need me to do, man? Hey. Them folk working, and I know they don't like to be disturbed. So whatever y'all need me to do, I'm going to do it. So that parental engagement.
One of the things I found as a principal, when I was the principal at Lawson, over time, the enrollment vastly declined. And so when I got to Lawson, it was maybe about 900 kids. By the time I left Lawson, we had over 1,200 kids. And here was my strategy, because I know that our parents are working. I'm thinking about my mom. Mm-hmm. I know she cared, but I also knew that she had to make sure that she was able to provide.
Right.
And so I believe every parent has great intentions. So my strategy in that time was to get my kids excited about school. That was my strategy. I wanted students going home talking about the confidence they were building in class, building strong relationships with staff members, to come into a space and feel safe, that they felt seen, someone cared about them in the school. And so kids started loving school. And they would go home and talk about that. And then my parents would begin engaging, talking about what their kids were saying about their school and about the staff. And, oh, Miss Bailey, my baby loves you, right?
Right.
And over time, in a matter of 2.5, 3 years, we grew. Our students came back to their neighborhood school because everyone was talking about the work that was happening at Lawson. So that's the strategy. Yeah. We've got to engage our parents. We also have to get our kids excited about school, confident in what's happening at school, and they will be that word of mouth. They will be the marketing campaign that will create that synergy between parents and school.
Yeah, and the question is, not whether or not people love the kids. I mean, everybody's like, man, I do this for the kids, I love the kids. I just love the children. If I ask everybody in this audience right now, raise your hand if you love the children. Everybody in the audience love the children. See, the main question is, how much do you love them? And how deep is your love? Is your love deep enough to work long? Is your love deep enough to go the extra mile? Is your love deep enough to teach harder, to make sure that they understand? How deep is your love? And you guys are showing it.
Here's my question. Do you love kids enough to change? Do you love them enough to be misunderstood? Do you love them enough to be beat up by lies? Do you love them that much? Because it's easy to say we love kids when our comfort is not tested. Mm-hmm. It's easy to say we love kids when we can do what we've always done and no one's standing up ready to disrupt that. Mm-hmm. So that's honestly, again, what I decided in this intervention, that I actually love them enough to be misunderstood by the same people that I walked through this system with.
Go ahead now. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I loved them enough for that. You know, I told I told my husband when I got the opportunity to step up and serve as one of the West Division chiefs. And so we have 4 areas. And so there is a chief over each area. And I had a conversation because when you take on leadership, your family's taking on leadership, especially in a situation like Houston.
Everywhere you go, you bring your family with you.
Absolutely. And so I told my husband, I don't know what the outcome will be as it relates to what people say about me, because I am willing to step up and serve kids.
There you go.
And my husband, 100%, said, you were passionate about education before. Are you going to allow people who are committed to misunderstanding change your conviction? Absolutely not.
Well, that's somebody that got you front, back, side to side.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
See, hey, you can't be beat then. You cannot be beat if you got somebody that got you 6. In the Army, we say got you 6.
That's your back.
There you go. And he let you know that. So God bless you for having that family that stand with you, because you take your family into every battle you go into. And I want to shift a little bit, because because you mentioned that the intervention should not be the ceiling. There's got to be something beyond the intervention. And I want to challenge us to look beyond, because we see the results of the intervention. Now it's time to go to the next level. And that's what this Juneteenth, this 4th annual Juneteenth Summit is all about, is going to the very next level. Because what you're doing in public schools, what's now going on with school choice in those areas, right? There are private schools. We have the Amani School here today. And we have the Cake School here. And I see Dr. Cofield has his school over at his church. And then I see Dr. Childress has his school over at his church. There was a big thing that if you support private schools, you were against public schools. Or if you support public schools, you're against private schools. But the Constitution, Article 7 says all students, and you mentioned that as well, all students. No areas of deficiency, no gaps in deficiency. So one of the things I know we're going to all have to do is work together. We're going to have to all work together. Our Christian-based schools working with HISD, if you see some gaps there that we can fill in the Christian-based space, or we see some gaps that we have here that you can fill in that space, because it's all about all students. And I know that we have Dr. Carson here in the audience. We're here at the Rock Church. This is Apostles Church. We are God's church through Apostle. And we all get that around the applause. See, we got Dr. D.Z. Cofield over at Hope, and then we have Dr. Childress at New Covenant Church. So we're all people working together and supporting you and supporting HISD, because the other thing you mentioned a moment ago is this is a ministry for you. So you're in a house full of ministers doing God's work. And when we pull all this together, we talking next level. See?
Absolutely. I think that what I believe is we do all matter. Mm-hmm. And parents shouldn't be forced to have to make a decision because every option is not viable.
Right.
And so I believe in public ed, we need to make sure that parents have full confidence due to culture and outcomes in their community school, so that they're not forced to make other decisions. When we
Absolutely.
Increase that, then a family can choose based on the needs of that family, mm-hmm. right? And so I'm not against any, but I am against forcing parents because we're not getting it done in their neighborhood school.
Exactly. And you want to get it done in a neighborhood school. Here's another thing. You know, having the advantage of being the age that I am, I've had a great opportunity to see how, when I was a boy, how the pastors worked with our schools. You know, I was a part of when I was 5 to 8 years old, I was a part of the Young Men and Boys Conference for Christ. And I saw the neighborhood preacher and the neighborhood pastor work with the elementary schools, and the deacons in the church worked with the elementary schools. They worked with the middle schools. They worked with the high school. See, when you come in the black community, you can't get past the pastor. See, when I was a little boy, Reverend Wiggins, Haywood Wiggins, over in Pleasantville, whatever Reverend Wiggins says, that's what we doing. That's just how it worked. You know, I mean, yeah, I go to Pleasantville Elementary, but if Reverend Wiggins said something, that's what we were doing. That's our culture. Because we come through chattel slavery, because we come through the Atlantic slave trade, because we come through all this, because even the indigenous folks, because their land was stolen from them, because of that, we've leaned into God. That's our only Savior. And it's still our only Savior. You're in charge of 274 schools, over 165, and if you Google it, it says 176,000 students. And I know by what you said earlier, this is your ministry. You can't do this without God. And we can't do this without God. And we all serving the same God. So we're going to change not just Houston together. We're going to change Texas together and America together, because God is bigger than all of that. Give that a round of applause.
And it will take a collective. We definitely have to continue to think about how our schools are designed. We have to think about our governance and what alternative ways we have in place that's offered by our state to continue to make sure that we are offering opportunities for kids to really be prepared for post-secondary readiness. So we have to make sure that, you know, HISD this year, we had 4 schools that are going into an 1882 partnership. That is a governance model that the state allows. So we have to think more about that, looking at those options. That is a part of coming together to explore what can be true about the design of our public school system, to make sure that we are really doing right by children and leveraging every opportunity that we can to move towards the future.
There you go. There you go. Here at the Rock Church, we have the Kingdom Educational System. We go from pre-K3 to PhD. You got some young preachers out there. You got some young preachers out of that 176,000 students. You got some young folks who want to go and become preachers one day. We want to make sure we partner with you in helping, just being there to help, because whenever you put men and women of God hand on stuff, see, and there's certain things that the public schools can do and the public systems can do, and they're going to do it well, and you maximizing that in terms of efficiency. But there are other things that we can do out here in the Christian world that go way beyond that we can do, that can take us to the next level together. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure all of your students and you be successful at HISD. And we're going to try to keep you, because it's going to be hard to keep you. I know that. But you making some more behind you. Make some more behind.
Absolutely.
There you go.
And here's the other thing I would say to everyone watching and the public watching, we need you. We need people who, goes back to what you said, truly love children. We need people who truly love children and care about children and are willing to have the courage it takes. We need you on school boards. We need you willing to make sure that our legislative they're creating policy that truly aligns to our values and what we know to be true about public education. We cannot do the work alone. As it goes back to that community, it takes a village.
There you go.
It takes a village. And so our village is the public. And so I definitely want to invite everyone who's really passionate about children and open to thinking about, do we need change in school? Should we think about how school is designed differently? Those are the voices that we need at the table. Those are the voices that we need leading, because we can't keep doing what we've always done.
There you go.
And this is not just a Texas issue. This is public education in our nation. And so that piece is important. Thank you for calling that out, that it definitely takes everyone. And we need the Christian community as well.
Well, absolutely. No question. I mean, you know, what you just said will preach. I mean, that'll preach, you know. Look here, if we stay outside the city, for sure we're going to die. If we go in, we might die. See, when the lepers outside the city say, if we stay out here, for sure, we know we're going to die. But if we go inside the city, we might die. It's different. You see what I mean? And so let's not stay in the where we are when we know for sure we'll die and not succeed. But let's go in and explore new innovative ideas together, because that's where the opportunity for us to live is. You have been so wonderful. I've done a lot of interviews, but you have been the best. Give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
Yeah. Don't you all feel her spirit? I feel her spirit. Don't you feel her spirit? So thank you so much for everything that you're doing at HISD. And our top, I'm on the board of regents at Texas Southern University, so I know where our top feeder schools are. 20 of our top feeder schools come out of HISD. So you're a direct pipeline to the lifeline of the only publicly funded university that's still independent in the state of Texas, which is a historically black university. You are the lifeline to our school at Texas Southern University, feeding us students who are now excelling in math, reading, science. So thank you for that. Keep up the good work and make sure that we combine. You got to have men and women of God. You got to have them. We cannot do this without God. And God is going to be the steel in the back of our success. So with that being, and let me just say one other thing. Thank these students who are over here on the front row from Imani School.
Absolutely.
Because, give them a round of applause. Because they have just diligently set through what we as folks who've earned PhDs have had to set through in class, going through data analysis, going through outcome analysis, and they have set through that, and I'm going to give y'all a chance to get some lunch, and then after your lunch, you're going to come do your thing, all right? Good. So with that being said.
And can I just say really fast,
yes.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, and thank you everyone who continues to show up and support Houston ISD. During this challenging time, I know it's not always popular to support, so thank you. Thank you for believing in our kids, believing in our teachers, our principals, our leaders. Thank you for showing up and constantly singing, not literally, but sharing the great things that are happening. We need you to continue to do that for our children. They need to hear and see the adults speaking about what they are accomplishing and having the courage to name it even in the midst of adversity. So thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, because, Ms. Bailey, we can follow your lead. I know when I hear God, I know when I see God, I know God's Spirit. Together, we're going to make sure that not one student in the Houston, go grab your lunch. We got lunch boxes, and after you get your lunch, come back, have a seat, and we got a great rendition coming from our students at the Amani School, and it's called Too What? Just Too Smart. All right, grab some food real quick. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you.